Dear students, in the previous video we talked something about off studies, and we finished up to the half of the essay, and discussed several things regarding off studies and what Francis Bacon says about studies. So let me just remind you with some information about off studies, and then let us go to the remaining half which is left in this particular essay, in this video. So in the previous video, that is yesterday, we talked about what are the benefits of studies, and there are three benefits of studies we discussed in the previous video. Studies serve for delight and for ornament and for ability. That is what we discussed, and how they help us to be delighted, and how they are useful for ornament in speech, and how they are useful for ability in judgment. So this is what we have seen yesterday, and we have already discussed. We have also discussed that so these studies, if they go along with the experience, so it gives good results. Experience without studies is not fruitful, and studies without experience is not fruitful. So they have to go together. That is what we have seen in the previous video, and we have also seen the different people, three types of people, their view on studies, how they treat studies. That is what we have seen. So crafty men contemn studies, that means they dislike studies, and simple men admire them, and wise men use them. That is what we have seen, and so we must be wise enough to use studies in our day-to-day life. That is what we have seen in the previous video, and we also have seen that don't read to oppose what the writer has said, and don't read to believe and take it for granted whatever the writer has written, and don't read to just talk and discourse or debate. That is what we have seen, but we need to read to weigh and consider. So we need to consider what is good and bad, and we need to take good. That is what we have seen in the previous video. So until then we stopped. So you can find here on the screen, so until where we have stopped, and the next half part of the essay we're going to start, and so you can see that on the screen which you have before you. So let us start the remaining half. So I just underlined the second part from where we need to start, and that underlined sentence is for your annotation. Just note that. So this is going to be the third annotation in this particular text. So look at that. Some books are to be tasted, and others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Here we have three types of books. If you see the first type of books, which are to be tasted, so we see that these books are to be tasted enough. I mean that if you take some books, those books have just to be touched, and if you read one or two pages, you will get to know what is there in that particular book. And so you can just taste it and leave it and keep it aside, because that is not such important, that is just a casual book. And then others to be swallowed. So there are some more type of books which have to be swallowed. Swallowed means we need to take the summary out of that, and we can keep that book aside. So some books can be used to just know the summary and plot of that particular book. These are the two types of books. So one type of books are just to be tasted, that's all. If you read one or two pages, that can be understood, and you can keep it aside because it's not such important. And there is some more type of books, there are some more type of books which have to be swallowed. That means you can just get a gist or summary of that, and you can just keep that book aside. And there is a third category of books. So this is very important category. When you see that, some few to be chewed and digested. So the third type of books are to be chewed and digested. That means you cannot leave any word, and you need to just read each and every word, and you need to read vocabulary, and you need to get to know the meaning, and each and every sentence is very important, and there is much information which is given in that particular text. And so you need to chew it and digest it, because that gives us boost, that gives us energy, and that book is very very useful. So this is the third type of books. So we have seen three types of books, which are to be tasted, which are to be swallowed, and which are to be chewed and digested. And next, if we see the next sentence, look at that. That is, some books are to be read in only in parts, others to be read but not curiously. So some books are to be read only in parts, others to be read but not curiously. So here he's explaining the three types of books, and he's talking about the first type of books. So some books are to be read only in parts. If you read one or two parts, that is enough. And others to be read but not curiously. That means the second type of books can be read but not very interestingly. So if you know the plot and summary, that is enough. And some few to be read wholly and with diligence and attention. So I told you already, this is the third type of books, so which have to be read wholly, completely, and with diligence. Diligence means with patience. You need to have patience and attention. You must have attention and concentration, and you need to read each and every line, each and every word, because they are very very important books. And so remember these three types of books. And next, here the writer mentioned one more type of books additionally. Look at that. Some books also may be read by deputy, and extracts made out of them by others, and but that would be only in the less important arguments. Look at that. These are the fourth type of books which are written by the writer additionally, so that he makes us to understand uh, what are the fourth type of books. So what are they? Means they may be read by deputy. Deputy means assistant, and extracts made of them by others. So the summary can be made by others, or somebody can help you or assist you to read that book for you, and that would be only in the less important arguments. That means uh, here these are the books which are of less important quality, the fourth type of books. And the meaner sort of books, meaner means uh, they are not good books, they are nasty, and they are with very small information. So uh, look at the next point. else distilled books Else distilled books are like distilled waters. So distilled books are like distilled waters. So what does the writer want to say here? Distilled books are like distilled waters, flashy things. That means here the writer wants to say that the fourth type of books, so which can be read by the assistants or helpers, and which are a bad quality, are like distilled books, and they are like common distilled waters. I mean that they are flashy things. Flashy things means cheap things, cheap books. That means distilled water, according to the writer, he says that distilled water is tasteless and useless, and so they are made light in weight, and light in minerals. So likewise, here the writer wants to say that the books which can be read by the assistants for you, and only the summary can be known, and which are of the not serious in quality, so not important in quality, those books which are uh, written by someone for you to I'm sorry so these books which can be read by others for you are the distilled books, which are tasteless. And next, if you go to the next point, you see that reading maketh a full man. So this is the fourth annotation which you have. Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. Yes. So here the writer wants to say that reading, the person who reads well, is a full man. That means a complete man, because he gets to know a lot of knowledge, and there is much knowledge in his mind, and so he is like a full man, complete man. And conference a ready man. Conference means debate. So debates makes a person ready, ever ready. So, and he, as he's very confident, and he'll be ready ever. And writing an exact man. So writing makes a person an exact, exact person. How? So the person who writes and whatever he listens and whatever he reads, if he writes them on notepad, and whatever he wants to do, if he maintains a to-do list, so this person who writes is called as an exact man, because he's writing because he does not want to forget anything, and so he does not forget anything. So who does not forget anything is called as an exact man. And so we see here reading and conference and writing, these three, which are very important. So we need to read, we need to confer, that means we need to talk, and we need to write. If you want to become a full man, you need to read. If you want to become a ready man, you need to confer. And if you want to become an exact man, you need to write. And therefore, if a man write little, he had need have a great memory. So if man writes little, he needs to have a great memory. See, we have already discussed that the person who writes does not want to forget anything, and so if the person is not writing, and if he writes very little, he indirectly says that he has a great memory. And next, if he confer little, he had need have a present wit. So if somebody is talking little, so he indirectly says that he has present wit, he has knowledge in him. And if he reads little, so he had need have much cunning to seem to know that he doth not. See, here if you see that if somebody is reading little, so one who reads little, so he is cunning according to the writer, and he pretends, he acts that he knows everything, and so he is cunning. So here we see that so the person who writes little, he must have a great memory. If a person who confers little, he must have a present wit. If a person who reads little, he will be cunning, and to appear that he is not cunning, so he pretends, and so this is what we see about reading, writing, and conferring. And next, let us go to the next point. And histories make men wise, poets witty. Histories make men wise, poets witty, the mathematics subtle, natural philosophy deep, moral grave, logic and rhetoric able to content. Look at these continuous phrases or sentences. Histories make men wise. So history, the subject, different subjects, and their use for people are mentioned here. Histories make men wise, because from the history we can get to know what is good and what is bad, and if you do like this what will happen, and if you are like this what are the benefits, what are the disadvantages. And so likewise, the person who reads history, that person can become wise. And poets witty, the poetry subject makes a person witty. Witty means clever and imaginative and amusing. So the person who studies poetry, he will be witty. The mathematics subtle. So mathematics subject, if you concentrate and if you focus on, and if you do mathematics, so it makes you subtle. Subtle means sharp. And natural philosophy, deep. The subject of natural philosophy make a person deep in thinking. And next, moral grave, morality, that means ethics or values, makes a person to be serious in life. Grave means serious in life. And logic and rhetoric, able to contend. So this particular subject, logic and rhetoric, what is logic and what is rhetoric? Logic means arranging the things in order, that is logic, and rhetoric means the art of speaking. So these two particular subjects make the people to contend. Contend means argue well, so to speak well, to be able to debate well. So here is the list of different subjects and their use for a person to be wise, to be witty, to be subtle, deep in thinking, grave, and able to contend. So what are different subjects? So we just have a look at them also on the screen. History, mathematics, philosophy, moral, logic and rhetoric. So these are the subjects. And next, you find a particular phrase here. This is in Latin language. I don't know the exact pronunciation of this particular phrase, but I will try to pronounce. Abuent studia in Morris. So what is the meaning of this particular phrase? Latin phrase means studies determine character. So the character of a person depends on studies. It is very true. See, the writer Francis Bacon wants to say the things or the ideas or the truths in a very short form of sentences. So he is very famous for brevity, shortness. And so only in one phrase he says general truth, that studies define character. Next, nay, there is no stone or impediment in the wit. Impediment in the wit. Nay, there is no stone or impediment in the wit, but may be wrought out by fit studies. See, a person's knowledge cannot be hindered if they are sharpened by fit studies, good studies. Studies make the hindrances or obstacles of a person's cleverness or wit to take the obstacles out and makes the person sharpened or clever, or a person who is successful, that depends on studies. Yes. Next, like as diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises, as the diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises, bowling is good for the stone and reins, shooting for the lungs, and breast, lungs and breast, gentle walking for the stomach, riding for the head, and the like. So, if a man's wit be wandering, let him study the mathematics. See, here the writer wants to say that the diseases of the body can be cured by appropriate exercises. See, if you go to the doctor, he suggests some exercises. If you are suffering from a particular disease, you do this exercise, that exercise, so that you will be cured soon. So, some exercises can help the diseases of the body to go away from our body. And so, likewise, these studies also help us to send some diseases from our body away, or the diseases of the mind away. So, what are some exercises, general exercises, which can be useful for our health? So, you know them. So, bowling is good for the stone and reins. So, here is a list of some exercises which are written by the writer. Bowling is good for the stone and reins. Stone and reins means kidneys. So, bowling does not mean that this cricket bowling. It may be some type of throwing something. So, this is good for the stone and reins. That means the kidneys. Shooting for the lungs and breast. Shooting for the lungs and breast. So, shooting, it is good for the lungs and breast because the chest muscles are widened if you are going for shooting. So, this shooting is good for both lungs and breast. Gentle walking for the stomach. So, we know it pretty well that walking is good for the stomach, for digestion. And riding for the head, horse riding might be, it is good for the head because you jump up and down, and so there will be much circulation, blood circulation to the head. So these are some of the general exercises which the writer mentioned. So with this we can understand that Francis Bacon is a scientist also. So he is famous for modern scientific thought because he is talking about diseases, and he's talking about exercises to cure the diseases. So he is like a scientist. And next we see that so like those exercises for the body. So here the writer mentions some of the exercises which studies cure the diseases of the mind. So what are those exercises of study? Look at them. So if a man's wit be wandering, let him study the mathematics. So if a man's wit be wandering, wit here means concentration, or a man's mind be wandering. That means that if its concentration is getting deviated or astray, it's going away, let him study the mathematics. That means in mathematics you know it pretty well that if your concentration is deviated, you cannot understand anything. So you need to keep the concentration from first part of the sum until the derivation. So likewise, if our mind is wandering or there is no concentration, that man has to study mathematics. For in demonstrations, if his wit be called away, never so little, he must begin again. So you know it pretty well that if in demonstrations, if we are not able to recollect what we want to say or what we want to demonstrate, so we must begin again. So for those type of people, so who stop in the middle and who forgets, so they have to study mathematics. And next, if his wit be called away, sorry, if his wit be no apt to distinguish or find differences, let him study the schoolman. So look at that. So if his wit be called away never so little, called away means is, I'm sorry, if his wit be no apt to distinguish or find differences. So if his wit is not suitable to distinguish or to find differences, so at some point or the other we need to differ the things, we need to separate the things. So if we are not able to distinguish and separate some things which have to be separated, so what is to be done? Let him study the schoolman. Schoolman here means there is a philosophy that is called as a scholastic philosophy. So what is this philosophy? Means these schoolmen have also one more name, that is what we can find here, for they are Semini sectors. Semini sectors means who distinguishes or separates even hair or cumin seeds. Hair is very small, cumin seeds are very very small, but these people, Semini sectors, can separate even them, it seems. That means they can separate even a small 2 points, they can separate them very very easily, they can distinguish them and they can find differences very easily. And so the people who are not able to distinguish and separate, so they have to study this as scholastic philosophy, so who are also called as Semini sectors. And next, if he be not apt to beat over matters and to call upon one thing to prove illustrate another, let him study the lawyer's cases. So if a person wants to prove something but gives the example of different thing, that means one who forgets, one who does not able to prove, and he deviates the matters. So what he wants to do, he must study the lawyer's cases. So that means he must study law. So last line, look at that. So every defect of the mind may have a special receipt. Every defect of the mind may have a special receipt. So these are all the mind diseases, and so for each and every disease of the mind, there is a special receipt, means a special treatment. So that is uh, these subjects like mathematics, subjects like scholastic philosophy, subjects like these law, and so on. So in these last lines, what the writer wants to say that as the physical exercises cure the diseases of the body, likewise these studies cure the diseases of the mind. So mathematics cures the mind's wandering, and next, um, if somebody is not able to distinguish and differ the things, he has to study the scholastic philosophy. And next, if uh, somebody wants to prove something but gives the example of something, and so he's confused, and he's not able to put the things in order in a logical way, so he has to study law. This is what we find. Different types of subjects and studies can cure, how they can cure the disease of the mind. And finally, the writer says that each and every disease of the mind can be cured by these studies. So this is what is the essay of studies. And so let me give you finally the analysis of this particular essay of studies. So Francis Bacon uses a Piti and aphoristic style. So his style is Piti and aphoristic style. What is Piti? Piti style means, we can understand that it is a short but expressed with full of meaning. Short sentences but full of meaning. So you can elaborate each and every sentence into our own understanding by giving many examples for each and every sentence. Piti and aphoristic style. Aphoristic style means something which is true and wise. True and wise statements and sentences. So if you see the whole text or whole essay of studies, we can understand that there are wise statements like reading maketh a full man, conference ready man, writing exact man, crafty men contempt studies, simple men admire them, wise men use them, and studies how they cure the diseases of the mind. And if you take each and every sentence, so they are true, and everybody says and agrees that they are true, and they are wise statements also. So this is a particular style of Francis Bacon. And then we can also see that there is the usage of what you call Latin and Greek phrases here and there in Francis Bacon's essays. And so this is a particular style of writers who used to write in 15th century, that is English Renaissance period. And there used to be the impact of Latin and Greek on the lives of English people. And so those who lived in the 15th century, they used to write, many writers, they used to write these Latin and Greek phrases, even in the English language also. So this is what we can find. And so one more particular type of style of Francis Bacon is that he abruptly starts the essay and he abruptly ends the essay. So he directly goes to the matter without talking about much about any introduction and so on. And next, you can also see that he ends abruptly. That is what we can see, and even we don't find these ideas of Francis Bacon. They are mixed up, so you don't find the ideas are divided into paragraphs and so on. So if you see, so the whole text is like only one paragraph. So this is what we can see. And so this is the style of writing of Francis Bacon. And so from this particular essay, Francis Bacon wants to say, talk about all aspects of studies, the benefits of studies, so the uses of studies, and about reading, writing, and conference, and how studies cure the diseases of the mind, and so studies and experience. He talks about that, and reading books and approaching books, how to approach books, and so on. So Francis Bacon's essay is very knowledgeable, and uh, we can improve our knowledge. So if we read Francis Bacon's essays, and the vocabulary also we can improve, and we'll get to know so the words which are very important, and the style of writing. See, some people say that in order to know the what do you call his essays are appreciated not because of the content but because of his style of writing. Yes, it is true. So his style of writing is very different, and so we have seen that, we have experienced that. uh, so this is what is about of studies. And so with this information you will be able to understand the annotations and questions well. And so after listening to these two parts of videos, so you just start reading of studies, annotations, and questions, so that you will definitely understand and you can write well the exams. Thank you.